or watching TV or at brunch eating bacon-covered things like most people are today. Why all these people have volunteered their time and energy for weeks and dealt with nightmare logistics for the sole simple reason of bringing information to their community. I think that reason is because we are all here because something in all of us is attracted to the culture of life. Maybe that's because you love food, or you're ready to change your habits to experience superior health. You're an animal rights activist or an environmentalist with a vision of a new earth. Something deeply rooted in all of our particular personalities of everyone here is pulled to affirm the positive. And that's the same for everyone here, especially the vegan and vegetarian veterans who have been at this a long time. Even when they make no money, when the movement is demeaned or they feel ostracized, or they feel like the world is too damaged to heal, we keep going. The answers I give to why I'm here and why I've been involved in this movement for 13 years have changed over the years. What began as a health experiment for me became about animals, and then the environment and politics and industry and agriculture. But after being absorbed in the movement for 13 years and going over those shifts, what I've been thinking about lately, and the reason I give lately for being involved, is because love keeps trying. And if you think about this idea that love keeps trying, you know it's true in career or your relationships or parenting or friendships, even the ones that are flawed. There's an urge that pushes you forward despite the obstacles and the hurt and the frustration and the impracticalities. If you love something, if you're committed to the well-being of someone or something, then you just simply keep trying. So I wanted to do something that might be a little bit different. I'm going to read you a letter, kind of a letter/essay/personal journal entry about the will to take action and the beauty in everyone's presence here today. So dear friends, all of you here, let's call it love, the indestructible pulse that in some moments will have you knowing and feeling the greatest, most profound potential in anyone and in anything. It is also the force that remains, even when you're burnt out, at the end of your rope, the thing that drives your tolerance of heartbreak, anger, ridicule, discomfort, frustration, and static. 13 years in the veg movement, and it's love that drives me. And it must be, because sometimes events like Earth Day or Green Expos or Veg Fests can bring about a melancholy. A celebration can sometimes feel like a lowly gesture, given the urgency of what's at stake. I'm at Green Expos often, most of the time surrounded by great companies doing effective and meaningful work, but at other times surrounded by some companies handing out plastic promotional items, wrapped in plastic no less, serving dairy ice cream to people who don't care about animals or the earth, but just want free samples of things. The exchange of info always leans overall to be good, but in these cases, it can be spiked with moments of mundanity, where I sense the lack of a deep love dimension in the work being done, supposedly in the name of the earth, of animals, and health. I've taught my stepdaughter to notice. Once recently, standing in line at Whole Foods with her when she was 10, her checking out the magazines, the racks of magazines, their covers full of current growing movements, yoga, paleo, meditation, vegetarian, grass-fed, humane. Sustainable meat, she read from a headline? Yeah, right, they just never want to change. I felt good. She was born and raised vegan, taught to think critically, locally and globally. She's a little warrior, well-equipped so far to handle the sly nature of this world at a vital time. Yoga, paleo, meditation, grass-fed, all those humane movements, they encourage health, eco or spiritual consciousness, sustainability, or personal peace of mind. But they do not offer the holistic approach we need today to resolve the most pressing issues of health and well-being the world has ever seen. Often, what seems like a promising shift toward positive change only parallels destructive habits. On a micro level, consuming grass-fed organic bison, for example, feels revolutionary compared to factory farming. But on a macro level, It requires the same resources, often even more because the animals live longer, results in more pollution, continues the systematic impregnation of animals, tail docking, dehorning, tattooing, udder singeing, bull rings, and leaves intact our anthropocentric view of the world, the belief that humans are the center of all reality. The root, I think, of the health, ecological, and even economic crises we face ourselves today. There should be no confusion. There should be no confusion about which movement is comprehensively effective for both personal and planetary health and sustainability. Veganism, in its broad reach, offers a revolution, not an illusory, feel-good modification of what are actually anti-life patterns. It's okay, in theory, for us as humans to make imperfect choices, but it's never okay for the victims of those choices, for animals and for the environment. Never before has there existed such radical health and ecological dysfunction, chronic disease, diabetes, obesity, environmental toxins, and environmental devastation. In the span of human history, it all happened so fast that most people are still blind to the destruction. The vegan movement is a direct answer to these burning issues. It is a call to collectively think, eat, and live differently, to raise our standards of life and reach the potential inherent in ourselves and our kids. It calls for a new approach which brings kids on board with health and wellness in both micro and macro senses. This is the magnification of love, the amplification of the murmur inside us, drawing us toward the culture of life. For those who choose it, I see over and over something called the affect heuristic. This is a psychological term for a phenomenon in which our physical state affects our decision-making. When one feels physically bad, their negative choices are often a reflection. And when one feels physically better, one becomes more open-minded and empathetic. Over and over, I see people experiencing the health benefits of veganism and in turn opening their minds further to even more ideas, ethical and environmental practices, alternative medicine, modalities of self-healing, self-reliance, taking responsibility. In this way, importantly, vegan choices are the most politically effective tool we have as people change their habits to positively influence the public realm, because these choices manifest out of an organic shift, deeply rooted in the mind, body, and the spirit. This is interior work that we all do. Trump definitely can't do it, Hillary won't do it, and even Bernie can't create the change for the nation that veganism can, with its utterly transformative power. What happens in this world is a product of our behavior, more than any politician's work over any form of legislation. Everyday life around the world is a product of each of our individual behavior. The philosophy behind my children's books is to create and teach a new generation to love deeply, think critically, and act responsibly, raising the standards for all living beings through our everyday choices. When we give kids the information they need to make educated choices, they choose wisely, and often with much more diplomacy than adults. We cannot leave children out of this conversation. They are inherently attracted to the culture of life. They are closer to its roots. They are still the essence of it themselves, eager to take part in solutions that protect animals and the earth. A culture of life makes sense to them, and there is a sense of personal agency that develops in kids who get a vegan education. A fundamental aspect of their behavior in the world gets informed by an understanding of their relationship to nature and other living beings, an understanding of how their actions ripple out into the world. Again, this is the magnification, the amplification of love. We are all here today because we are attracted to it, willing to approach life informed by the connections between the physical body, cognition, society, ecology, and spirit, uplifting ourselves, our children, and the whole living web of life on this planet. Every person who adopts vegan choices is a crack in the system, through which power will be unleashed by parents and children who long for a better world by all counts and measures. People who love all existence from the vantage point of the present and the future to come. This means something else too, though, that we must be aware of. If you're attracted to the culture of life, then something inside of you, consciously or subconsciously, also recognizes and must embrace death forces. Activists in the vegan and animal rights movement constantly hold a death force right along with the life force that we're trying to infuse into everything that we do. Cruelty, suffering, and slaughter, death, is an undercurrent in our work, one we're simultaneously working against and alongside of. I think women, especially, are the most capable of tolerating this task. I find proof at every Veg Fest and Green Fest that I go to where the population is mostly women. We are both the receptacles of everyone's energy and the nurturers of everyone's energy and all life, constantly internalizing and externalizing the flow, while we work to protect what we love, while we work to infuse everything around us with the culture of life. The work, people suffering, animals suffering, the urgency for change can fill us with tremendous grief, and it should, because I think this is a healthy reaction. But we can choose to see the grief not as punishment for awareness, but as a tool to inspire passionate change. This is the moment where, if we want to go on, being a conscious artist, activist, parent, business owner, whatever we are, we have to effectively transmute the energies we hold. For me, transmutation feels like a torrent, a tidal wave, a wash of all the things I've absorbed rising to the surface to seek oxygen, out of my skin and veins and eyes and lungs and mouth. Through the tears and obstacles and outrage and frustration of working in animal rights and the vegan movement, I have made a practice of letting all of these feelings come, because I've learned again and again that relief can only come by heading through, not around. It's quiet after, and anything is possible again. You know you can hold all the energies, all the life energies and the death forces, that this is the work required to raise the standards for all living beings. We continue to exist, full, holding, acting, waiting, and being patient, because love keeps trying. Thank you all for being here.
All right. I'm just eating some vegan food here. Excuse me. Thank you, Ruby. It was wonderful.
Ruby's got a table up there with some of her books if you want to check